This is the kickoff event of the Orwell Symposium. And there are several things that are planned for this. This is a part of an initiative that has been sponsored by and initiated by the National Council of Teachers of English. And it's actually entitled 1984 plus 20. Which means that the college, university, and high school students across the nation right now are actually looking at Orwell's works. And I think actually now is a good time to be doing this. There is a sense of doublethink that many of us that are my age are beginning to feel, particularly as we watch the news and see our nation yet again engaged in hostilities in Southeast Asia. I mean, Iraq. Yeah, John got it. There is a sense that we're repeating history here, and I think Orwell was one of the people that asked us to think very critically of how those messages are sent by governments, not simply our government, but governments in general. And I think now's a good time to start thinking about that and examining how we use language and why we use language and the way that we use language to represent events in the world. So there are several planned events. Today, our featured speaker is Christopher Hitchens. We will, on November 18th, invite Philip Wenger, and there will be a display of students' scholarly works on December 1st and 2nd. And there'll be more information posted about these events as they occur. Now, there are also several people that I would like to thank who are the organizing principals behind this. Deb Edelman, I know she's here. Jim Allen, Dan Thorpe, I know I saw him earlier too, Bob Dixon Kohler, Daniel Keyes, Jason Snart, and Christine Kickles. They're the ones that planned and put together these events, and believe me, to do this kind of work takes a great deal of planning and effort on their part. So it is my privilege now to introduce Christopher Hitchens. He is an author of many books, most notably, and these are just a very few of them, Callahan, The Road to Number 10, Hostage to History, Cyprus from the Ottomans to Kissinger, No One Left to Lie To, The Values of the Worst Family, and his most recent book, as I understand it, A Long, Short War, The Postponed Liberation of Iraq. For many years, he has been a columnist or contributor to such periodicals as The Nation, Vanity Fair, The Times Literary Supplement, and he has been a Washington editor of Harper's, a book critic for Newsday, and he regularly contributes to the London Review of Books, Vogue. I'm having trouble reconciling those two things, and the New Left Review, and the Times Literary Supplement. He has been called, and I hope he takes this as a compliment, acerbic and nonconformist, with a predilection for irony and satire. He is often controversial, and however, having said that, Basic Books had enough confidence in his 2002 book, the one most at issue here, Why Orwell Matters, to order a very large first printing for a scholarly work. The American Library Association's book list says Hitchens clarifies all that Orwell accomplished and by extension affirms literature's unique and essential powers. Christopher Hitchens.
Well, Christopher, if I may, and ladies and gentlemen, and brothers and sisters, and I suppose any trisexual element present, thank you for coming on such a beautiful afternoon, and thank you for such a handsome introduction. I had no idea the American Library Association had said that. Here's my promise to you. I won't leave here till there is no one present who can say they had a question that I didn't answer. And not till it gets to cocktail hour, at any rate, I won't do that. Second, I wouldn't come to a group of this kind without doing a little bit of homework about who you were and who you are. And I've done some checking, and I was told that there'd be quite a lot of people here who knew about Orwell, quite a lot of people who cared about Orwell, quite a lot of people who didn't know about him, quite a lot who didn't care, and some who neither knew nor cared. I'm going to speak at first to those who are in the latter category and see if I can win you over. And in my effort to do that, I hope I'll have something to say that's of interest to those who consider themselves experts on the subject, or specialists, or just interested. And I make one other promise. Is there anyone here who's been told they have to come here by their professor? Or who's having to do it for credit? Okay. Well, I'll just tell you now that I am an adjunct professor at New School University in New York, and I can sign a piece of paper if you want that says you don't have to stay. I don't do captive audiences. I certainly don't do them in the name of Orwell. So no one who has been told they have to be here has to remain. Let's just see now. The doors have been locked as I requested. Yes. Very well. All right, I have to start with a disappointment. I asked when I arrived, does anyone happen to have a copy of my book? I might not need it, but I might. And a very kindly professor here said he could go to the library and get it. And the reason I most wanted it initially was for the photograph that's on the jacket. So this is unfortunately how your library has done this. And I'm glad to think the book is that worth stealing, that it would be this identifiable on a second-hand shelf. But I did, in fact, want to ask you, to begin by inviting you to, in a sense, close your eyes and pretend you haven't had this as a subject before or as a syllabus matter before, and actually just have a picture in your heads, the one that I have all the time. What you would have, and perhaps some of you have seen pictures of the author, is that of a slightly tall, angular, shy but not unconfident Englishman with a hollow-cheeked look, a rather dolorous look in some ways, a rather solemn look, but yet it's not the look of someone with no sense of humor. It's the look of someone who's been through quite a lot and has tried his best. But there is a final element of pessimism to it, as well as, I think, some of that hard-to-understand handsomeness for which we English people are so, I think, rightly famed. It's an ironic look, actually, is what it is. And it's the look of someone who has suffered a great deal. And I want to begin by proposing it in this manner. There were three great subjects in the century that's just closed with rather a big slam of the door behind us, that what you've heard called the 20th century. Some of you were only just born in it, I guess. And there were three, as I say, three great dramas, great crises, great moral and intellectual and ideological confrontations in that period. And you'll all have had to know about some of them. And you'll carry on hearing about this, by the way, as you will carry on hearing about this author, whether he's on a syllabus or not. You'll wonder why he keeps coming up. And part of my reply to that implied question is this. Of these three questions, which were the right of European countries, of white people in Western Europe to be exact, the right of such people to govern the rest of the world, to govern Africa and Asia and large parts of South America and Australasia, as if it was a right, as if it was a birthright. The grand confrontation between democracy and, first, National Socialism, sometimes called Nazism or fascism, totalitarian, racist, one-party, military state concept, organized for war, organized for aggression. And third, and the one that ended most recently, the confrontation between the democratic way of life and the communist alternative, where the citizen is declared to be the property of the state, and the state promises in return for this trade to make the citizen better off, better educated, better fed, with better health care, but eventually doesn't keep that promise either, but retains its hold on the citizen as property. I'm paraphrasing, but that's roughly it. These were the things that preoccupied anyone who could read or feel or think in the last century. And George Orwell got all of them right, in my judgment. This is, of course, a moral judgment of my own, but I'm willing to back it up